And I thank you to all who have joined tonight's New Jersey Building Electrification webinar. We've run these webinars for close to 2 years, and we have a lot of information that is all recorded and with slides and everything into a indexed website if you're interested. Uh, we have several competing webinars scheduled tonight, competing with us. So we sincerely thank you for choosing us. Tonight we have a double hitter. We have homeowners describing their house upgrade adventure. That's going to take about 45 minutes, including questions at the end. And in the last 15 minutes, my wife Pat and I will provide a quick rundown of IRA status, which provides you and me money for things we do to electrify our house. We get tax credits and we get rebates, which are stimulants, supposed to stimulate us to do this work. So tonight's featured guests are Betsy and Steve, who are mostly retired engineers living in Northvale, New Jersey, and Bergen County. It's sort of like Pat and me, mostly retired, and engineers, technical people. And now they live a long ways from us. They're up on the New York State border, adjacent to the Palisades, which I really think is a great place to be, along the Hudson River, way up in Northeast New Jersey. Steve is a chemical engineer and Betsy is a computer engineer. And Betsy's retirement project is a Substack site called climatefriendlylifecycle.substack.com. And I hope that Betsy puts that information into chat for the rest of us to see. She writes articles along with the collaborator, Dr. Judith Green of the Sierra Club. And Betsy encourages each of us to subscribe because it's free. And I actually highly recommend it because the articles are really well written. Betsy, why don't you make sure we see it in chat? So
typing as fast as I can. Okay.
Okay, great. So Betsy and Steve's retirement project has been to figure out how to weatherize and modernize their 1954 vintage house. You know, back in the 1950s, builders may not have even included insulation in the foundation walls and attic. So they originally may not have had any insulation. Now, every 3 years since then, the New Jersey new house building code has become tighter and tighter and is actually heading toward net zero in the new buildings. And so tonight we hear Betsy and Steve describe multiple paths to reach their goals of provide comfort and safety, save money on energy, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and accomplish all of the above at reasonable cost and return on investment. So our intent is that each of the participants, we're now up to 32, will learn and apply techniques to your house. And we encourage you to write your questions in chat as the questions come up. And we'll answer in chat and or repeat and provide on-air response so that all participants can apply the ideas to their own house. So Betsy and Steve, I pass this forum on to you.
Okay, let's see. Let me share my screen. Okay. And one more thing.
Nope, not farce. All right.
Okay, hold on. Okay.
And a laser.
Hold on, I'm just getting the things set up here. Okay. All right, so I think our presentation may be a little different than some of the others in that we've had some successes. We still have some quandaries and some unsolved problems, and we have some cautionary tales. So it's not an unqualified success here. I was joking with a friend of mine that there needs to be a new job category called energy concierge. Somebody who helps figure out how and in what order to proceed with all of these changes. And that's actually what you guys are doing in this seminar. And she said, no, we should call it an energy doula. So whatever it is, thanks for holding the seminars. So welcome to our retirement house. It was built in 1954, approximately the same time that we were born. And just like us, it needs some improvements, some tweaks, and some major work. So we bought this house because we still wanted a garage and a yard and lower taxes. and we wanted to be able to walk to town and to do a lot of things. So it's a split level house. One of the issues is that it's all gas, 2-zone gas heat, and a gas water heater with a tank. The biggest problem though is that all of the heating is done via radiators with circulating hot water. And that's really constrained a lot of what we can do. In the top 2 floors, it's radiators, and the bottom floor, it's a baseboard. We also have a gas dryer, a gas stove, and we have no central air conditioning. We just use window units because we have no ductwork of any kind. You can see the solar panels that we did install in June of last year. Here's the back of the house. You see both our best feature and biggest problem, the sunroom. The sunroom has a mini split heat pump, which works great. In fact, the air conditioning from there is enough to cool the bottom 2 floors of the house alone without any other help. We do have passive measures in place to try to quell the heat leaks from this. You can see that there's an acrylic roof, and we bought a custom reflective cover that reflects 95% of the sunlight while still allowing lighting and everything to come through. And that greatly helped in the summertime to keeping the room cooler. I'm looking for an absorbing cover for winter. Haven't been able to find one, so if anyone sees one, please let me know. We also have reflective curtains in the summer and heavy insulating curtains in the winter. And here's an inside view from the kitchen out through the sunroom. You can see the heat pump right there. You could also see the radiator. And here, as a bonus, here's the portable induction cooktop that we've used for a tremendous amount of our cooking, so that we've reduced our gas use by just not cooking on our gas stove. So what problems are we trying to solve? The sunroom is a huge leak of heat in the wintertime. The upper floor is incredibly hot. We've only run 2 window air conditioning units in 2 of the bedrooms. There wasn't even a thermostatic fan in the attic until we installed it. But the items that are highlighted are why we had to move now. The furnace is 16 years old. The burner control system failed last year. The expansion tank is actually completely damaged. The water heater is 10 years old. So it was telling us all of these things we needed to look at before winter came. In addition, our utility closet is incredibly small, which you'll see in a minute. And then we had a significant roof leak about a month ago around the chimney flashing, having nothing to do with solar panels or anything else. It just happened. So we had to do something there too. But we do have good features in the house. We do have low utility bills because of solar. Our solar panels actually cover 100% of our electricity use for the year. Our attics have okay insulation, not bad. And the bottom floor is naturally cool because it's partially underground due to the slope of the land. It includes a crawl space that's very neutral temperature all year round. And as my husband remarks, it's great for brewing beer. So anyway, water heating with the radiators is comfortable and not as dry as a hot air system. So we don't mind staying with the radiators if we can find a solution. So it was a little bit unclear in which order we should pursue these things, but because there was the clock ticking with the furnace and water heater replacement, we're doing that first. We asked them at the same time, can you consider an air conditioning solution that we could use? We of course need to look at the insulation and get an energy audit because that will tell us what else we need to do. And then of course there was the roofing problem. So how are we going to evaluate the different alternatives? We want to maintain our home and save money on energy, and of course maintain the comfort and safety in the home. We would love to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions if at all possible. And of course, we want it to be a reasonable cost and return on investment for the money that we're going to spend. So Steve is the chemical engineer, and therefore he does all the plumbing in our house. So take it away, Steve.
Yes, you can see the system we had when we moved in here. That was pretty congested, a water heater here, an old, not old, but a 16-year-old gas boiler that heated the water for the circulating system. And it was so congested that the water shutoff valve for this unit is behind the water heater. The previous owner had to actually break through the cinder block, so you had to crawl in the crawl space unless you were very gymnastic to shut off the water to the house. So we needed something different. The plumber doing other work on our house recommended a combi boiler made by a company called Navion. These are units that combine in one box, heating the water for the entire house and providing tankless hot water heat. It also, in the way it heats up the water, it's about 95% efficient instead of 75 to 80% efficient for a normal boiler, and enables a lot more efficient operation. Due to the fact that we have the gas system here, there was really no practical all electric solution for the water system, so we went with the Navion system. Because it's complex plumbing and rejiggering of things, we actually got a second opinion from ICS, and that worked out well. The quote was good, done well. In addition, they had an engineer that actually sketched out the options because it was a pretty complicated system to install. So if we looked at doing a ducted solution that would take all of the attic space, it just was not a viable project economically. We also looked at a separate tankless water heater, but then that would be a water heater tankless unit here, still keeping the boiler there, and the furnace would still be gas. You'd have to run another electric line for just the tankless water heater. Now these combi boilers, which I'd never heard of, have been around for actually 25 plus years. They're used in a lot of condos, and they became very popular in Asia as they did the big build out in China and Thailand and other countries. So they're been around, very dependable, very experienced production. Another important note on this overall system evaluation is that the gas bill is only $1,200 a year with the existing system. We expect this to be able to reduce our energy consumption of natural gas by 20 to 30%. Like mentioned before, we also use the induction system. So we do 95% of our stovetop cooking, which also not only reduces the greenhouse gases in general, but keeps the carbon dioxide level lower in the house itself. We'll also look at improved insulation in the future. And when the gas dryer expires, we'll replace it with an electric one at that time. Here's a brief sketch of how the combi boiler works in terms of being more efficient. For a normal system, you have a burner here that heats up cold water, and the exhaust from that furnace goes up the stack and out the house. In our case, we had a kind of cementous flue that was about 7 or 8 inches diameter that went up 10 feet to the roof of the house. The combi boiler unit takes the cold water from the house, goes through a heat exchanger that is heated by the gas that comes off the first heating section. And then this gas transfers heat from the exhaust to the cold water coming in. It also condenses out some of the water from the combustion of the natural gas. And has 2 advantages. One, it cools it a lot and also makes it a smaller volume. As noted here, instead of having a 6 or 8 inch cement vent, we have a 2-inch PVC pipe vent. That's a lot more efficient and really safer because you don't have hot gas exhausting your building. Here's a brief sketch of the combi boiler unit itself, which has, of course, one path for hot water. Cold water goes straight through here, hot water through the other exchanger. And then the circulating system takes the hot water from here, radiator, and gets reheated back in the furnace. And it just has the engineering to do both those things at the same time, or one or the other, depending on what your needs are. So here's the after installation setup. You can see there's tons of space here. Here is the hole that was made by the previous owner, so you could access the water shutoff valve here. One advantage of this nice small unit, besides its compactness and efficiency, is that you can precisely set the temperature of the hot water and separately the water that circulates your radiator, plus or minus 1 degree just by a simple switch. We also added a shutoff valve here that I can circle. Basically, this is a sensor that can detect water on the floor, and you can program it to either alert you that there's water in the floor, or you can actually set it up to shut off water to the entire house in case you crack a line here in the winter, in case heating fails or something. As mentioned before, we'll replace this hole in the foundation. This unit shown here is a separate water filter that was independent of the project. And here's the water sensing shutoff valve. This is the condensate pump that takes the water that's removed from the exhaust gas and pumps it to the laundry room sink. And that again is the hole in the wall. Some notes on this combi boiler system that apply to our particular situation. The key aspect of it was we got 0% financing for 7 years. So that makes the cost of this much less of a dent in your checkbook. And that was not discussed by the first plumber. It was brought up by ICS, and they did all the paperwork, very seamless setup, no down payment. As mentioned before, the flue was replaced by the small PVC pipe, and this is the small opening you see in the side of the house. There's also an outdoor temperature sensor here they put in that's just used with the electronics inside the combi boiler to optimize the use of gas depending on the outside temperature. One other minor headache was we had one of the existing thermostats failed. Of course, it hadn't been used all summer. We couldn't use the Google Nest with our old wiring in the house for the thermostat, so we had to install a conventional thermostat and just got it up and running.
Right, so we've had this system working for about a week now. Anyway, in air conditioning, what they ICS, and I should note that ICS, Chris Wisniewski gave one of these talks a few months back, and that's how I got his name. Proposed for air conditioning to put in multiple ceiling mounted Mitsubishi heat pump units in each upstairs bedroom, and then run the air out to a central condensing unit outdoors. So I'm sure this is the correct technical design, but it's essentially a completely new second HVAC system. Because of course we could heat with that as well as cool. But it's pretty expensive. There's no way to use the existing plumbing. We'd have to, if we were to switch over to that system, we'd have to replace the radiators in the rest of the house. So it just isn't going to work for us right now. We're going to stay with some window AC units, or maybe put one mini split upstairs sometime. And maybe some of the insulation changes that we make a little bit later in this presentation might have a big effect, like closing the hole in the from the crawl space into our utility room, things like that. So we did an energy audit with Seal Power. One of the things I really liked about this was a very comprehensive report. I have here one of the pages from the report, and if anybody wants to see more of the pages, I have it. Ask during the Q&A report, and I could page through more of it. What I found, it was quite complete in calling out what exactly was in your house, how well it was insulated, what they recommended that it should be insulated to, and then they went through everything in a very organized way. However, no financial ROI was given, and the estimate they gave us was $43,000, some of which we would be eligible for credits. But given that our total gas costs for everything for a year, including the electric dryer and the stove and everything, is only $1,200, and we expect to reduce that, it doesn't seem like a lot of this makes a lot of sense. It seems like we should solve some of the bigger problems. We asked them, our biggest problem is the sunroom. You guys are experts. What should we do? And they did not have an answer despite multiple requests. And they didn't even mention it in their report. I also saw Steve Miller told me aside that he had used Seal Power to do an audit somewhere else, and they recommended blowing insulation, and they didn't check, but it had already been done. So you do have to question everything that they have in this report, but otherwise it's an interesting idea. Here's another page from the report, their summary of all the things that they wanted to do. Some of these things are, pretty hard to do. They have to drill holes in between every part of the slab, every part of the studs. We had questions, some of which are not yet solved. Our crawl space has high humidity. Is insulation okay to put in there? I don't know the answer to that. They also wanted to insulate the attics by blowing loose cellulose in there, which is a mess. I wanted them to put down, I asked about fiberglass rolls, didn't really get a good answer on that. So like I said, it's a good place to start, but ask a lot of other people. So we did ask New York Metro, which is another highly rated insulation company, and we like them a lot. When they came, they were very focused on, here's your first problem, here's your second problem, and this is what you need to attack. So the first thing he said, oh, look at your sunroom. By the way, I used to sell sunrooms. You can't insulate a 3-season sunroom. What you have to do is put a removable, you have to put a door or window there. In our case, it would have to be some sort of a removable door, because the door, when it was open, would block the door to exit the sunroom to the outside. And also we do want to enjoy it. So I don't have a solution yet for this removable door and window, but I'll talk about it a little later. The second thing he said was, oh, in your attic, it's hot because you don't have a ridge vent in your attic. A ridge vent is holes along the top of the attic that are shielded, that allow hot air to naturally rise and exit the house. We only had an exit on the side. And he said, yes, it's standard code now in New Jersey, and has been for a while, that you have to have a ridge vent. But of course, our house was roofed before that happened. So he said, that's a big problem. If you take care of that, your answer may be different as to where your problems are. Again, in the attic insulation, he wanted to blow loose cellulose. He said he would put damming there, which is essentially panels that keep it from moving around in different places. I still think it's a mess. And so we had long discussions with him. Could we pay him extra to layer the fiberglass? Could we help him? Could we do it ourselves? So we didn't come to any agreement on that. So we will probably attempt to do this ourselves over the next few months, see how that goes. I did put part of his report here, mainly because I want to emphasize the ROI. For example, insulating the cantilever where the second floor hangs over the first floor a little bit, and also the garage ceiling, would be $1,900, and it would save us $11 a year. So the savings to investment ratio is only 0.1.
Here's your payout.
So sometimes you may want to do some of these things for comfort anyway, but it gives you an idea of what your biggest problems are. Anyway, we may go back to him and have him blow compressed cellulose underneath our attic floor, and other things that we can't easily do ourselves. So we'll take a look again in the spring. For the sunroom, if anybody knows where I can find a door that we could put in there and then I can remove it from the hinges, that would be great. Or a storm window I can install and completely take out the windows, please let me know. Meanwhile, I just sewed up some fabric panels around foam insulation, and we'll just put them there so it looks like part of the kitchen, and they're very easy to install and remove. So we'll do that in December and January. The final part is a cautionary tale about roofing and solar. So when we ended up putting the solar panels in, Orange and Rockland, which is our utility, recommended a solar consultant called Electrum. I think they used to be called Pick My Solar. And they said they guaranteed that they would work with them, and that all the paperwork would get done, that all the commissioning would be done. We wouldn't have to worry about any of that. So Electrum went out and got some competitive bids. And we ended up choosing Infinity Solar of Mahwah. You know, a big question we had was, well, how about our roof? The roof was a second roof, had been installed probably at least 10 years before that, but they took a look at it and said, you know, well, we have 10 more years on this roof for sure. One of the reasons we picked Infinity Solar is because they had a sister company owned by the same people with the same administrators in the same building, which was a roofing company, Infinity Roofing. And so, you know, we figured that a solar company that also is a roofing company probably has their act together. And they guaranteed as part of the contract that they would remove and replace solar panels for free if they were hired to do the roof at any time in the future. So that was all well and good. Then we had this roof leak having nothing to do with the solar panels, and we repaired it, and we asked them just to inspect it. So when they came out, and this is Infinity Roofing now, when they came out, they said, oh, you need an entirely new roof, because didn't you notice this moss over here? Didn't you notice that there's some leaks in the far back part of the attic? And then, of course, we argued a lot about, well, how come you didn't tell us before this? Why are you telling us now? Half of the people were telling us we needed it. In fact, when we finally did proceed, the guy who came from Infinity Solar to uninstall the panel said, why are you getting a new roof? So we were kind of angry about this whole thing. We did ask for a bid from another roofer, which was considerably less than that. But of course, it wasn't with a company that had as many resources as Infinity Roofing. The problem is, and be aware of this, no one can take over the warranty for your solar panels, or at least no one was willing to. So you must go through them to take the solar panels on and off. They gave us a bid of $5,000 to do that. When they actually did it last week, it took a total of 6 man-hours to take them off and put them on. So it's not a big job. But essentially it means you're kind of stuck with the company. So the upshot was we did have it done. We did have some rotten boards, so it's a good thing that they did tell us to do this. I did really like them as a company. They were extremely professional, and I would recommend them. They did a good job. And now we have a roof and solar panels for the same company. They're responsible for everything. There should be no finger pointing. So the lesson we want everyone else to learn that we didn't learn was that the solar consulting company plays you off against the installer. When in our arguments, it turned out that the solar installation company claims that they told the consulting company about the roof, and the consulting company didn't tell us. Of course, that's not what the solar consulting company said. So I don't know. So I would suggest, if there's any question about your roof at all, like if it isn't a new roof, you get a professional inspection from someone who's not trying to sell you a new roof. And maybe if you aren't going to do the whole roof, or if your roof isn't going to last at least 20 years, do that, replace that part of the roof where your panels would go. We have heard from them and also from ICS, who's ICS had told us they have lost many solar jobs because they told people that they needed a new roof, and people then walked away from the solar install. So that is why people are afraid to tell you. Anyway, we learned this lesson the hard way. But the bonus out of this is we did get our ridge vent. So this should improve the insulation that we have by quite a bit. And that's one of the reasons why we want to wait and see what else we need to do on the insulation. And we do like our solar panels a lot. We exported more electricity than we imported over the course of the entire year. So
Of course, one of the advantage of solar panels is that it's on your north or southern facing side, so that it keeps the attic a bit cooler just because the sun's not getting to the roof itself.
So anyway, thanks for listening. I do have the complete Seal Energy audit report if anybody wants me to page through it. So thank you for listening. I hope you have maybe a little bit less of a path than we did. Thank you.
How much insulation do you have in your attic?
We,
It's basically, let's say 20-ish inches in general. Like a R12 layer than a R30, but it's not continuous, particularly with the larger attic on the lower part of the house. We use that for extensive storage, so you can only put whatever it is, 6 or 8 inches of insulation there.
I'm just sharing my screen that has the Seal Energy report because you could see. Hold on, let me just kind of go. They actually, so this is one of the 2 attics was rated, condition was rated good. The other attic, hold on.
There was maybe.
Wait a minute, that's knee wall. The overhang, garage ceiling, the crawl space. Oh, did I pass it?
Yeah, it's the first one, I think was the name.
Sorry. Nope, this is the boilerplate. No, that's the first attic.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time finding the second attic, but it wasn't actually bad. We had multiple layers of fiberglass batting and they're installed upside down. So that was good to know. So it's not terrible. We would like to improve it.
And again, this was also, this was both sections of the roof now have ridge vents in them. That should make the summer situation a lot better.
Okay, we do have some questions in the chat. We can go through. Steve, did you have, I know you had some ideas for some of the things that they had talked about. Did you just want to list those or go through the questions first?
Well, I have one general comment about use of radiators. Radiators are very common with 170-degree water. What temperatures do you use for your radiators?
I think it's more like 155 or something. I know
Lower.
it doesn't feel as hot as it was when we had the older system, but it's keeping the house warm. Now we'll adjust it again. It's so easy to adjust the thing. You push a button, comes up with a little screen that you toggle to either the hot water setting or the radiator loop setting, and then you push it and then toggle it up and down a couple degrees, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah. So the comments I have are more for the future, that we in the United States don't have satisfactory answers with heat pumps for high temperature radiators, but that will be changing, hopefully for 2 reasons in the future. One is there's rumors that one manufacturer will introduce from Europe, where they are common, a suitable radiator type heat pump, hot water, next year, maybe, hopefully. But the second piece of this is that Europeans use different types of refrigerants, Freon refrigerants. And one candidate could be like propane, which is common now, becoming more common. So there's a group of industry committees, people that are trying to introduce these other refrigerants like propane. And that would open the door to have higher temperature type, high water temperature type radiator type heat pumps. But it means they're trying to sell this to first federal safety regulators, and then the state safety regulators, and then the local regulators who have to approve the use of propane, which sounds hazardous. But the advantage is that a heat pump that has a water output will keep the Freon inside the outside unit, and it could be a small amount, like ounces maybe, of refrigerant like propane. And so there's hope that this will get a pass by our the safety people, so that we have the freedom to have more heat pumps for high water temperature in the future. So that's the hope for the future. Probably will happen. I can't guarantee when. That would have been a big help for you.
Yeah, they're probably not ready to change their their gas unit right now.
No, not at
But
all.
but when you mentioned, Betsy, that that one of the vendors had um, suggested that you have this multiple head heat pumps to replace the air conditioners. My thought was, well, maybe we could just stage this. You have your heating taken care of for now, and you had to do something because the other one was broken. But what if, even one by one, you replace the air conditioners as they need to be replaced with the heat pumps? You use the heat pumps in summer and winter to heat as much as they can heat, uh, and then you'll still have your combi unit as backup. And so you'll be using more electricity and less gas that way, and so your emissions will be less.
Well,
So,
that's true, except our air conditioners are, of course, electric, so they are already using electricity.
right, but the heat pumps are much more efficient than the air conditioners.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they would take some of, and they're a lot more efficient than the gas boilers. So
Right.
They'll take some of the gas load and put it onto electricity.
Right. We'd have to put them either in each room or somewhere upstairs that's wasn't easy to reach, because I know he walked around our house for a while looking at how to do this. He also said, don't I'm not interested in doing the job if you're going to cut down on the number of heat pumps. So he wanted to put one in each bedroom. I understand that's 3. But essentially we would be installing a completely new HVAC system. So for the cost that was involved, yes, I agree with you. Replace an individual unit as we can. He wasn't interested in doing that job, so we'll do that as time comes. Be interesting to see what happens with the ridge vent if all of a sudden the heat pressure that we have is much less.
Yeah, I mentioned those temperature sensors we use for moisture. They actually sense temperature and humidity, and you could put one in the attic just to monitor the temperature and record it. It takes the way it works, it takes a reading once a day, and if you exceed a limit, high or low, it sends you an alarm.
Okay, let's try to get through the rest
I do
of these
have one more
questions.
comment on the idea of these the air conditioners for the 3 bedrooms. Again, this is for the future. There's a new type of heat pump that will just mount in the window. They're available right now, but they're not for colder temperatures. But within 2 years, there will be heat pumps that sit on top of the window ledge. Part is outside, part's inside. And so as your air conditioners fail in the future, it's a direct swap. You just take the old one out, plug in a cold temperature, cold weather heat pump, and you'll do wonders, I think, based on what I've heard. And the cost is supposed to be in 2 years about $3,000. Now, I don't know if that's satisfactory for you or not, but that's coming.
But I mean, this mini split that we have in the sunroom actually air conditions 2 floors of the house, and it's a pretty good heater. It's quite good.
Yeah.
And that one cost about, I think, $1,200, and I got it in March of 2020 because it failed just as COVID started. So
yeah.
Well, everything costs more now. Anyway, Tim asked, what is ICS, which I know is Chris Wisniewski's company, but what?
Integrate Comfort Systems. Integrate Comfort Systems is the name.
So they were the contractor.
Chris Wisniewski. Yeah, they did a great job. He had emphasized make an entire plan before you do anything, and that's what I really liked, and he did that. Oh, I could probably.
Okay. Gerald asked, when you installed your solars, did you put a screen around the panels to keep the squirrels from getting under the panel? They'll dig a hole in your roof.
Don't laugh, because my Substack collaborator, Dr. Judy Green, had that happen. She has solar panels, and that happened. So no, we haven't done that.
Oh,
We'll
do
see.
it. Do it. Make it happen.
Okay.
It's very it's very inexpensive. It should have been done really when when your panels were installed. My panels are about 10 years old, and within, excuse me, just about a year ago, I got a leak in my roof. And the reason why was because the squirrels were getting underneath the panels. So I had to take the panels off, replace the roof, put the panels back on again. Because the panels are as old as they are, a lot of the electronics that go through the electrical connections was really hard for the installer to find the right equipment, and they really had to scramble all over the place to find the right connections. It's working nicely now.
Okay. I think Geneva and Royston want to make a plug. Did you consider Sunrun for solar panels? We are in Essex County, and that's the company we predominantly see advertised.
For these competitive bids, they did propose a number of different installers, and those installers proposed different manufacturers. And we had 3 bids we went through in detail, and I think they had gotten 10 bids. I have to say, despite the arguments we had about the roof, I'm quite pleased with Infinity Solar, Infinity Roofing, and the panels they had. So, but choose the one that works the best for you and that your utility and your installers can easily support.
Yeah. And Callie says, yes, thank you for sharing your experiences. And she used Seal Energy for audit and insulation in 2016. And I assume she was happy with them. And Steve had told you that we also have used Seal for our daughter's house. It hasn't been finished yet, but they were willing to. They gave us a high. It wasn't nearly as high as they gave as the bid they gave you. It was about half of that. But one of the things they did was when we said, well, we have plenty of insulation because Steve had put it up. He took that off the bid, and it was $7,000. So right off the bid, right off the, they were ready. They wanted to make the sale, and I thought that was something that the guy had in his hip pocket that he was ready to give up if we sounded like we were going to go with them. But anyway, so that's what we ended up doing.
Yep, I'll comment on that. So I was part of that, of course, and it's pretty obvious they were ready for bargaining, and they very readily reduced their bid.
So the other company that we quoted there, New York Metro, gave us a bid for $9,800. So 43,000 versus 9,800. So yes, get different bids, but compare what they want to do and why. What I liked about New York Metro is he said why you should do that, and he pointed out those two reasons, which are
some of them are safety factors. He did.
Yeah.
There was one installation point I just never saw above the laundry room / utility room, and to the outside wall there's a connection with some water pipes somewhat close, and it's just bare concrete or cinder block. And so it doesn't need much insulation, but it really needs it there. And that's not a comfort factor, it's a risk factor. So.
Yeah. I looked up, by the way, your design temperature for winter. It's 8 degrees.
I'm sorry, is what?
1% of the time, your temperatures outdoors will be less than 8 degrees Fahrenheit. So that gets pretty cold up there. So you need to have good insulation for those pipes.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty accessible. It's just something I never thought of, and Seal pointed out, and New York Metro had a little better way of handling it, but that's why the inspection can be useful, because it doesn't take much. One broken water pipe could ruin your entire day.
Okay. Stephen says, who has R60 insulation? That was recommended in one slide. It seems like overkill.
That's why their cost was so enormously high. You know, But the salesman wants to sell. That's
Yeah.
nature.
But
And-
I did solar estimating for heat pumps in the 1970s as a final project for a bachelor's degree. I heisted a general ledger and made it a house ledger of all the components. And R60 was just unheard of back then. So I don't even know what material you'd use unless you just kept piling blankets and blankets of insulation on it. So how they had the audacity to go with R60, that just, I mean, when you start putting up so much resistance, I mean, it's futile, as sci-fi would say. You know, so I just wondered what in the heck would even produce that kind of resistance. So that was a general question too. So if anybody has an idea, I don't know.
Well, I know they're encouraging and I guess putting into the building codes now a lot more efficient measures, weatherization measures, because if we're all going to electricity, we have to really become more efficient and use less electricity. So there are a lot of different measures that you can do to save electricity. You know, I think
Yeah.
we are about at the end of questions.
Yes.
Most of these are just comments and saying thank you. And we do thank you. That was great.
And I had one quick question, if that's all right. I raised my hand, but I guess maybe you weren't monitoring.
Oh, no, I was looking at the chat.
Right. Okay. You mentioned about possibly at some point in the future replacing a gas dryer, and I recently have become familiar with something called a heat pump dryer, and that allows you to recycle the hot air internally without venting it outside, and that saves quite a bit of electricity. So at some point when you're ready to make that change, you may want to look into that.
Right, I'm actually going to look at Sean Armstrong last time, and on the Ask Sean show published a fantastic reference. It's on his website, redwoodenergy.net, about retrofits for a single family home, and he had things like that in there, and I will definitely consult that. You know, when I look at what we would replace it with. Yeah,
like everything else, it's a little hard to find vendors that will sell you one right now, but they're going to become more and more used. So we should probably skip over to the second part of our talk, which is going to be very very short and succinct, we hope. Did you have anything to say, Steve, before I start?
No, I just this is my wife Pat, and we have put together a new IRA talk, and you're about the third or fourth organizations to hear it. I just put into the chat the complete set of slides. You're only going to see a few of those slides compared to the big set. So if you want to see the whole story, it's a PowerPoint that's in chat. Also, I also put into chat, if you wanted to know more about heat pump dryers and various types of dryers, there is in the 400 references, there's a big section about heat pump dryers. So you can learn a lot more from the reference section. I just posted into the chat.
Okay, then I'll start.
Okay.
As Steve says, I'm the other half of the Steve and Pat show. I'm going to talk about, we call our slogan, Electrify Everything with Inflation Reduction Act, which is the IRA. And I'm going to talk about the IRA's incentives for individuals and skip over all the overall IRA benefits and the national impact that are in that set of slides. If we just look at New Jersey, our top 3 sources of greenhouse gas emissions are transportation, buildings, and burning fossil fuels to generate electricity. At present, about half our electricity comes from gas, but the percent clean goes up by a little every year according to law. And these 3 areas, transportation, buildings, and electricity, are the 3 areas that the IRA addresses, and that's shown in the figure here. This figure is courtesy of NRDC, which is National Resources Defense Council. The IRA's measures are all voluntary. They're incentivized by generous cash rebates or tax credits. And if you look at the numbers on this figure, number 1 at the top is rooftop solar. That is subsidized or incentivized. In the next slide, I will cover the rebate and tax credit incentive programs. Number 2 is insulation and air sealing for weatherization or energy efficiency. There's a 2 at the top in the attic, at the bottom for the floor, and on the right side for all the outside walls. The insulation can be blown in or rolled out as appropriate for the location. Number 3 is windows and doors. Replacement of windows in older homes is often not recommended because of the high cost. But new construction should always have double or better still, triple panes. And all windows, whether old or new, should be air sealed as much as possible. Number 4 is the EV in the garage and its charger, which is also in the garage or outside. Number 5 and 6 are heat pump water heater and heat pump dryer. Number 7 is induction stovetop. Betsy and Steve have a lot of these things, or they will have them soon. Number 8 is a smart thermostat, and I think you used to have one, but it went by the wayside. And number 9 is a heat pump, heating and cooling. And there are incentives for all of these things in the IRA. Now, here's another table chart, which was created by Dr. Leah Stokes, who works for Rewiring America. And it lays out the 5 different IRA individual incentive programs. The first two lines at the top are electrification and efficiency. And these 2 are rebate programs. They are income limited, so they're only for low and moderate income households. They will not go into effect until probably early 2024. So these are not available now, but will be after the state has designed and gotten approved, designed or upgraded its state programs to incorporate the additional funding, IRA funding plus any state funding. New Jersey already has such state programs in effect, and I imagine they were in the bids that Betsy got, and they were definitely in the bid that we got from SEAL for our daughter's insulation and air sealing. These rebates will be in the form of a discount through the vendor at point of sale. I won't go into each rebate, individual rebate amount. It's in the slides if you look at that. But a couple of examples are up to $8,000 for heat pumps, up to $8,000 for home energy upgrades, and these are separate, so you could get $16,000 if you did all of that, and $6,500 for electrical work and wiring. The rebates have a fixed maximum funding, though, that's shown in the table. And we'll likely reach that maximum funding that the IRA provides. So if you do qualify for any of these, you should use them as soon as possible before the funding runs out. Okay, back to the chart. The last 3 lines are tax credits. They're available to anyone who pays taxes, except in the case of the EVs, which are only for low or moderate income. The tax credits are available now. You can have the work done now, this year in 2023, and then you write them off on your taxes when you file the 2023 taxes at the beginning of 2024. The annual maximum amounts can be used year after year. So staging your upgrades, as Betsy alluded, over multiple years might make sense. But the IRS has also ruled that they can be carried over several years, at least for the lifetime of the IRA, which is 9 more years till 2032. So effectively, there is no overall limit. We hope that as many people as possible take advantage of these tax credits as many times as they need to electrify everything and eliminate most or all emissions. The tax credits are also available to churches, even though churches are not required to file or pay taxes. The IRS is creating special forms for churches to claim the IRA tax credits. This is another handy tool. Rewiring America has created this. It's an online tool that anybody can use. It tells you just which rebates and tax credits you qualify for based on your zip code and income. That's all you have to give it. And it will go through the whole list of what's possible and tell you what you can get. And all you have to do, you see the link at the top, but if you just go to rewiringamerica.org, you'll see the link to the what do they call it? To this tool anyway, to the handy IRA calculator. Oh, there it is at the top, the IRA calculator. Then the first thing you should do is what Betsy and we have been doing, is to have a home energy audit and make a plan for how you're going to electrify. Since appliances often break down when you least expect it, like the broken boiler last year, a plan for how you want to replace each one individually is helpful. A lot of appliances will likely need to be replaced in the next 9 years. So just be prepared, and then you don't have to shop. If you know what you want and where you can get it, you can just go buy it. And now Steve will describe a chart that he created, which I'm going to get out of here and he can start sharing. His chart is both the federal and the state incentives that are available as of now. And after that, he'll talk about our own home projects and how much money we're saving by doing the upgrades that we've done. So Steve, I can see your chart.
Very good. So I have one chart that actually combines everything. Mike Winka mentioned there's other rebates. That's true. So the left column, and you can see this hand sort of moving around, the left column are all the things going on down to the next page down below of things, rebates and credits we've been talking about. But across the top are several columns that are additional things. The local utilities already supply rebates. For instance, for a heat pump water heater, I installed one, and within 2 weeks after completing the form, I got a check for $750 from JCP&L. The other utilities have similar things. For utilities that are not listed here, this is the majority of New Jersey, but others, Brooklyn Electric, Atlantic City Electric, you can find their rebates up by following the link up above. The next column is to the right is the tax credit we've been talking about, 30% taxed, capped at $2,000 a year for individual things and $3,200 max per year. This has according to June IRS filing, has a 22-year carry forward. And I believe what this means, if you have additional things beyond $3,200 this year, you carry it forward to next year. You can add more stuff, carry forward 3,200 and go declare 3,200 next year, and then go on and on and on for 22 years. So that's an unbelievable type thing. And the final column are the things we talked about that the New Jersey BPU is busily working on right now. We're probably going to see it first of the next year, 2024. And these are aimed for LMI families that have income of less than 150% of area median income. You can look up that area median income. I think Pat showed you Pat showed you the way to look it up. And so these two tables or 2 pages of this really are a nice, handy thing to see all the benefits. If that could help you, maybe you can see them all in one spot. We have maybe a few minutes left. We said we'd start by 8:15. Should I continue, Pat, with other examples of what we've done with our house?
If you can do it quickly, I do want to get to the point where we show the savings.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So if I can somehow figure out how to advance this return, there we go. Okay. So I'm going to focus on the steps that Pat and I have taken to weatherize our house and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. One of the first things we did actually several years ago was change our electric supply to by buying renewable energy certificates. We were able to supply with renewable electricity for our house. And right now, this year, we have community solar. People can buy in this. And in fact, you're going to save on the order of 20% over the electricity you're paying right now. And this is, in our case, we signed up for community solar for a warehouse roof about 9 miles from our house. It was pretty close. Another thing that you can quickly do, about 5 years ago, we bought a plug-in electric vehicle, and this is a hybrid, so it has an internal combustion engine for miles over 30 miles. We use this car typically less than 30 miles a day, and we save, and it's all completely on the 100% renewable electricity. So we've changed our transportation emissions to 0 for most of our driving. We did this energy audit several years ago with the local utility. I think it was either 0 or very low cost, maybe $50. And they advised me of all the air leaks I had and all the poor insulation. I've taken care of this. We have duct sealing that I do myself. Here's my supplies for duct sealing for the exposed pipes. We've changed, as air conditioners break, we have changed to a heat pump. This is a heat pump replacing a broken air conditioner last year. We have put in an additional panel for electrical appliances for the future. And this is the result. In 2022, because of the things we've done, we reduced our total gas and electric bill by 23%, and we reduced our tons of CO2 emissions by 83%. This is just for the building portions, not the transportation for our house. So this was significant and relatively little effort. Just last fall, our water tank sprung a leak. So we swapped in a heat pump water heater. This is the beast that we have. And that will add additional savings for lower electricity and, well, lower total electric costs. It used to be a gas, and also lower amounts of CO2 emissions. Now, we also have, if I can go through this quickly, a Unitarian Universalist congregation in Monmouth County that's won various awards We've been part of trying to apply for these awards, get recognition. We just had a virtual tour a week or two ago of what we've done. We put on a solar rooftop. We've changed our 6 furnaces to hybrid heat pumps on the outside and using a gas furnace as backup for low outside temperatures, extraordinarily low temperatures. And here's the result. Over 20 years, we have reduced our total electric bill 81%. We have reduced our total CO2 by 79%. And there's more data on this, and we can show a comparison here as well to 2019. So the savings that organizations, and our church is like a large commercial business, the savings that are possible if you keep at it are significant. And in this set of slides, you're going to see other references to other material that will help you with answering various questions you have. That was my quickie review of real data for my house and my church.
Okay, let me just quickly go through the comments. Not so many questions. Mike says we should remind folks that the IRA incentives and tax credits are in addition to the New Jersey Clean Energy Program. And I think
that's stackable.
Steve,
Yes.
you just did that. Also, let's see.
Stop share.
EV charging incentive, whoops. State and federal, more than happy to help you put all the, he wants us to include the solar and the EV in our chart.
Okay.
And he's happy to help us do that.
Super.
Which, I mean, we mentioned those. Those are the 3 things that you have to do besides buildings. You have to have clean energy and you have to have electric vehicles.
I wanted to mention one thing I think is pretty impressive. So because of the net income savings from the rooftop solar of our church, if I assume a 25-year solar lifetime, this pays back a new roof we put on before the solar, then the new solar panels, and the 6 additional heat pump furnaces combinations, and we're going to have several $1,000s left over. Think of that. The savings that are possible for, in this case, like a large commercial type building. So
and we didn't even get the tax credits because we did it last year.
That's true.
So now you get tax credits for all of this. So the price goes down. Shoshana has a question. Do the rebates from the electricity providers count even if you already have solar and have an electric bill less than $10? The rebates are only for buying new equipment. So if you buy additional, if you need to, because say you get a couple of EVs and now you need more electricity than you did before. If you buy more solar, then you get the tax credit for it. But it's not for anything that was done in the past.
But there was a rebate for heat. I think that I saw one for a heat pump, which I don't have. But even would the electric company still provide a rebate for a heat pump, even though I'm already not paying a big electric bill?
Well, why would you buy a heat pump? I guess I don't understand the reasoning.
I would buy a heat pump because I have oil.
Oh.
Definitely.
Well, yeah. So you would get the rebate or the tax credit, or you can apply for both if you're eligible for both. And for if you changed out your oil boiler for a heat pump, then yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. Okay, that's all that's in the chat. Does anybody else have any? We have 3 minutes left. Anybody else have any comments, questions, or whatever? You can come off mute if you have something to say.
Okay.
I have a comment, Pat. It's Joanne.
Okay, Joanne.
I use Clean Choice Energy along with my solar. It's the choice. It's what you're allowed to sell, because you sell your solar power back to the grid.
Right.
And so I chose Clean Choice Energy, and they just sent me a check for $41.54 as reimbursement for the excess power that was generated during a period from April to June.
That's terrific. So
Yeah, so that's
anything you're getting to back it up is clean also.
right, right. And they're giving me a rebate on it. They're
Yeah.
giving me on it.
So
So-
if you have solar, you have to have a utility, an electric utility anyway.
Right.
So make it as clean as you can get.
Yep.
I do have a closing if there's no more questions.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'd like to give thanks to Betsy and Steve because they were tonight's great featured speakers. And I'm going to send to all those who registered links to the recording, slides, and chat. We're happy to continue discussions offline. We are evangelists and we live this every day. So if you have a question, just let us know.
We have two grandchildren that we're trying to save the world so that they will have a livable planet.
And a plug
And
for
their
the
grandchildren too.
Okay, if you need additional help to even begin or to take the next step to upgrade your home, next month we have a speaker, Matt Kavanaugh, who is eager to help you. He's a professional energy consultant. It's something I heard right at the very beginning of this meeting. He will help you create a complete plan. He'll help you get started and then carry forward. He has a company offers decarbonization as a service. He'll talk about it and give you all sorts of examples next meeting, which is November 16th, 7 p.m. If you go to his website, I will put it in chat. You'll be able to get a lot more information. I was glancing through it. And for $50, he'll get you started with a plan. And for $200, he'll give you a very complete plan and follow through with it. So he's probably a pretty good buy. But you can hear his talk next November 16th.
What's the name of his business?
It's called greeninsight.green. I will put that in chat. If I can
Yeah, who
find
wants to
chat.
wait till next month?
Sure. Hold on, let me try to find. I will try to put it in chat right now. Hold on. Okay. So the company is called www.greeninsight.green.
Thank you, that's great.
Okay, well, thank you all. This was a really informative and interesting and fun night. And I'm glad you all could come.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.